Hi, everyone. Welcome to Classics You Slept Through, the book podcast where we read and discuss classic books. I'm your host, Kyle Davis, along with a girl who obviously has never played croquet before, my sister, Meredith. How's it going?
Knew it. I knew it.
Yeah,
the moment
what?
you
No.
texted me, I was like, and we're going to say, when a girl who never, blah, blah, blah. I knew it. Look, this is what happens. I get in the zone, reading aloud, and my brain did a phonetic thing. I know it's not croquette. I know it's croquet.
You know what croquettes are, though, correct? I mean, croquette is a word. Yes, yeah, they're exactly. It's a legit word.
I know croquet is a word.
I mean, literally, the famous Red Queen of Hearts line is, "Do you play croquet?" I mean,
you know, I offered to edit it out, and you said I had to eat the embarrassment. So
no, it's a lot funnier, you know. But anyway,
I told you, the people I work with and at my job, we read aloud to each other a lot. And when we were reading one of my very favorite books, John Steinbeck's East of Eden, I said the word. It was surgery, and I said sugary twice.
wow.
And I was like, that makes sense, but that's definitely the word sugary.
Yeah, that is the word.
Immediately, one of my very good friends and colleagues called me, and all he said was sugary. I was like, that's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
There you go.
So it's something that happens when you read aloud. Your brain just goes too fast. So
mine is stared and started.
Oh.
Like, I always, when I'm reading aloud to the kids at night, I'm like, and he stared. That's stared, isn't it? Like, I struggle between stared and started. It's bizarre.
So you didn't show me any compassion or empathy, and yet you have the same problem.
Well, occasionally.
I know it's croquet, everybody.
Well, very good. Yes, and even though there is not a lot of hot croquet action in this section of the book, we are talking about probably the most famous croquet book. I mean, are there any other books where croquet is like a major plot point? I mean, I'm just thinking. So, full disclosure, throughout all of these podcasts, I'm going to be just watching the Disney movie in my mind constantly. So, I mean, you've got the croquet scene with the flamingos, and the guy, Alice's flamingo keeps flopping his neck, and
doesn't laugh like.
He laughs at her. Yeah, so I mean, do you know any other movies that have a lot of croquet based action?
I don't. Maybe like Downton Abbey. Does that have croquet?
It's not a movie. It's also not interesting. But anyway, this would be like the prime.
Hashtag Downton Abbey's not interesting. Maybe we can get some hate fans.
we need something, right? No, so we are talking obviously about Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll, one of the all-time, all of these books that we read obviously are all-time classics, but this is in the pantheon of books that we read or have read or will read on this podcast. This is probably one of, if not my top 4 or 5 favorites here.
Interesting. I never knew that.
Yes, I adore this book. I'm a little bit more of a Looking Glass stan. I like that a little more than Alice. But on this podcast, we are taking the two books as a unit. So we'll be finishing on our next episode, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, and then we will immediately roll into Through the Looking Glass and what Alice found there, and we will then wrap the two, I think, kind of together as a single wrap. We're not going to do a separate wrap for the 2 episodes of Alice, right? So, but yeah, I actually and in our wrap, we'll kind of go over it, I think, in more detail. But the Disney version, which I think is probably still, for me anyway, the best theatrical version of Alice in Wonderland. It's phenomenal. The cartoon, yeah. The Disney 1951, I believe, cartoon. Which is actually a kludging of elements of Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. So there are pieces of both. And I'm excited to get to talk about that as well. So that preview for episodes down the road when we do the wrap, I'll be giddy over one of my favorite movies. Anyway. Okay, so we are talking about the first 6 chapters of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Pretty, I think, easy to talk plot-wise. Everyone listening to this should probably be familiar with the story. If you're not, you could go watch the Disney version that I just recommended. It's a very quick primer on all things Alice, and you'll get most of what we're talking about through this section.
Or if you haven't ever read it before, you could just stick with us and listen to it and ask all of your friends to listen.
I honestly think that the best way to do it is to do both, because I think watching the movie and reading the book, I honestly think the two of them, there's very few times where I would recommend a movie version of a book. Normally I wouldn't say snobbish, but the book is better. I do kind of fall on that side of things. But this is one where both are phenomenal. Both are fantastic. You can watch the movie, you can read the book. I recommend you do both, actually, because they are both so good.
All right.
Yep. All right, so chapter 1, we meet young Alice. She is a young girl of 10.
Yeah, that was my question. How old is Alice, actually?
I think, so it's interesting. If you look, and if you're watching us on stream, you see the original cover of Alice in Wonderland, and she's on the cover, she looks maybe 6 or 7, I would say. But in the sort of popularized, once again, I think I don't think she's considered a quote-unquote Disney princess, but in the Disney version of Alice, I think she's more around 12 or 13, maybe.
Well, apparently she gives her own age as 7.5.
Yes, which quite young.
Yeah.
I've got a 7.5-year-old, and Alice is very precocious for a 7.5-year-old. He's 8 now. Actually more 8.5, but anyway, it's neither here nor there.
I almost thought she read a little bit younger than 7, maybe 6, but then maybe not her. No, 7
there are
feels
definitely
right.
times. Yeah, there's definitely times where she feels younger and times when she feels older. But in my mind's eye, I see the Disney Alice as about 12 or 13, somewhere in that range.
All right.
Well, she is outside with her sister. They're doing lessons. And she's sort of daydreaming. Her mind is wandering. She's thinking about her cat, Dinah, where if you've never read the book before and are only familiar with the movie, I think you would be surprised at the amount of Dinah content we get. Dinah is a central figure here.
Well, she fell asleep with Dinah on her lap, or she's playing with Dinah outside before she sees the rabbit.
Correct.
So it's an important piece of her life as a 7-year-old. I mean, I've seen your kids with mom's cats, and it's just very important piece.
They are quite obsessed. This is true. They train them. They make things for them. Anyway.
Carry them around. Poor Cassie's just like,
Yes, my children traumatize the cats a little too much. Well, she kind of daydreams off and then sees a white rabbit wearing a waistcoat, and he has a pocket watch, and she thinks that's awful strange. Rabbits don't wear waistcoats. And he mutters about being late, and he rushes off, and Alice, in her young girl curiosity, wants to see where this rabbit goes. So she follows him.
She falls right down the rabbit hole.
Which has become, what do we call that when a phrase has grown larger? I mean, it's not cliche,
an idiom?
But an idiom? Yeah. So going down the rabbit hole has become an idiom, correct?
Maybe.
I wonder, was it before?
And that's why it's a
Why
rabbit.
he chose a rabbit? I don't know. That's a good question.
Oh, it's a
Something to look up.
metaphor.
A metaphor.
I mean, obviously it's a metaphor, but yeah, I don't know.
An idiom is like a saying, right? But we use the metaphor of going down the rabbit hole for getting deep into something, or, you know, in the case of, say, The Matrix, you enter a larger world, your mind is expanded, you see things you've never seen before, right?
Yeah, I think it's an idiom.
Okay.
Pretty sure.
Okay.
I feel like
you're the language expert.
I feel like down the rabbit hole almost has been not replaced, but it's specific to like a YouTube hole, like get sucked into like a YouTube journey or something where you keep clicking and clicking and clicking.
Yeah.
And you started out watching cat videos and now you've ended up watching like
Anti-vax Q conspiracy videos.
Oh. I was going to pick like clowns and hot air balloons.
Oh,
but
okay.
All
right. You have to keep it current to what YouTube actually does to you. So anyway.
Dude, I drove all of our kids to the park the other day, last weekend, and this old man in one of those like really like awesome cars that old men buy when they have money, and they were like, I want to buy an awesome red Corvette Stingray, I don't know, whatever, covered in QAnon stickers and just like the big announcement, like crazy person coming through.
It's nice that they at least let you know beforehand so that you can.
And I kind of went, ugh, QAnon. And your kids were like, what? Where? Who?
What is this? Don't worry about it, kids. You'll learn about it in school, hopefully, in 10 years, and it'll be gone.
Anyway,
very
so she goes down the rabbit hole.
She goes down the rabbit hole, correct. And she lands in a hallway, and she sees down at the end of the hallway, there's a bunch of doors, and the rabbit dashes through a door, and she kind of sees on the other side as he goes through, she peeks through the keyhole, there's a beautiful garden, she wants to go in, but she can't, she's too big, she's tall, this is a very small little door. But fortunately for her, there's a table sitting there, and there's some cake on the table, and it says, has a tag that says, "Eat me."
No, it doesn't have a tag, it's written in orange marmalade, isn't it?
Is it? Maybe. I think you're right. Yeah, the bottles have tags. You are correct. So it's written in orange marmalade to eat me.
Very important detail.
Yeah, sorry. All right, and so that kind of closes out chapter 1. So not a whole lot going on in chapter 1.
No, but I do find it, I have this note that, so we know the story. So what I find interesting in reading it versus watching the movie is there is an actual difference, yet not, of the narrative voice in Alice. So in the movie, we see Alice talking. There isn't a narration overlaid, right? But there is a narration in the book, and they're so intertwined that they like begin and end each other to the point that if you take out Alice's words, just what's in the quotation, sometimes they don't make sense on their own without the outside narrator, which I think is really cool. So, for example, in this chapter, it said there seemed to be no use in waiting by the little door, so she went back to the table, half hoping she might find another key on it, or at any rate, a book of rules for shutting people up like telescopes. This time she found a little bottle on it. Now Alice says, which certainly was not here before, said Alice. Which, like, if you took that out, that makes no sense, which certainly was not here before. And it happens over and over and over.
Unless that's some kind of British dropping the subject. I mean, maybe British English.
Oh, but still. And then further it says, like, she felt a little nervous about this, for it might end, you know, said Alice to herself. Am I altogether going out like a candle? I wonder what I should be then. So I think it's really interesting that it's not narration stops, dialogue starts. It's all woven together in this really cool way that you don't get in a movie. The movie. Yeah.
Correct. Definitely. Yeah, Alice definitely has, with her inner monologue, and in many points in the book, it sort of slips out sometimes that she's like, oh, I said this aloud, or didn't think she said something aloud, and another character will react. So in her mind, she's just thinking, but then she actually speaks these thoughts, whatever's going on around her.
And I like how she talks to herself too, and her logic of, like, the bottle says drink me, but it's not marked poison, so.
Oh, she checks, right?
Yeah, of course.
She checks if the bottle's marked. I have to check if it's marked poison. Goodness. Which is very interesting, given the fact that in this day and age, they don't have really mass-produced medicines, right? Like, you have the apothecary mixes something for you and puts it into a pill capsule and then sends you the pills. So you're really relying that you're hoping that Mr. Gower didn't get the telegram and he's putting he's putting poison into the capsule, you know? I mean, his bottle was marked.
See what you're doing, Mr. Gower? You put something bad in those
poison in that capsule. Yeah, I mean, his bottle that he took the powder from was marked, but when he put the capsules in the box, he didn't mark it. I mean,
does that part make you cry? Because it makes me cry.
It does. It always does. And I'm sorry. Anyway, all right. Greatest or second greatest movie ever made. But I digress. All right, so that brings us into chapter 2. And so now we get in kind of one of the themes of this book, right? The theme of identity. Mm-hmm. So Alice begins eating and drinking these various cakes and bottles that she finds, and her size continually changes. And every time her size changes, she wonders who she is. Is she still Alice?
And I really like so this carries on throughout, but like in the first chapter, she's talking about giving herself advice, and she often gives herself very good advice, though she very rarely follows it. And I'm like, yes.
She's very self-aware.
And sometimes she scolds herself so severely that she brings tears to her own eyes. Once she tried to box her own ears for having cheated herself in a game of croquet. Game of croquet. And she was playing against herself. And I don't know if you know this, but I had an imaginary enemy as a kid. I didn't have an imaginary friend. I had an imaginary enemy. Her name was Vicky, and I thought I made that name up and apologies to Vickies of the world, but I thought it was the most horrid name, Vicky.
She's a robot.
Who's a robot? Vicky?
Yeah.
In
Small
what?
Wonder. Small Wonder.
I don't know Small Wonder.
What?
Small Wonder? What?
She's the robot. She's the super strong robot.
All of a sudden, you're like a movie expert today. Before it's like, I haven't seen that show.
It's a TV show. Come on.
Anyway, I had good Meredith and I had Vicky, and I wasn't myself. So anytime I messed up, I fell or something broke or whatever, it was Vicky's fault. Vicky did it. She sabotaged me. And if it went right, it was good Meredith, but it was never me. There was a separation. So I feel connected to Alice. I identify here.
So we've either turned the podcast into a therapy session, or you are a character in Family Circus. One of the two.
Whatever. You had an imaginary friend named Tree Bump.
Well, yeah, but I was also considerably younger than you, I think. Like at 3, maybe? I don't know. But I was also smart enough to be self-aware that I knew he wasn't real.
What? No.
You know, I pictured him as having like a tree growing out of the top of his head, by the way. That's
he's
like
a Groot?
No, like he's a person. Right, no, he's a person, and then from the top of his head grows maybe an extra 2 feet of tree.
So he had a tree bump. So his name was Tree
Literally,
Bump?
that's how I mentally pictured him. Anyway.
That should be your next tattoo. What up, Tree Bump?
Hey, that's actually not a bad idea. So I am collecting ideas because, I'm just going to have to just start doing it at some point. And,
yeah. You don't want a Cheshire Cat tattoo?
I would do it. I would do Cheshire Cat because it is. No, I probably would not do my lower back. Anyway. But yeah, I need to start collecting things to start getting more done now that I'm nearly vaccinated. A few more days, I'll be fully vaccinated.
Woohoo.
And then I will feel better about going and doing things once again.
I'll be fully vaccinated on the 24th.
See, by then, I will
22 more
be
days.
fully protected, because then I'll be 2 weeks post-second vaccine. Very excited. Anyway. All right, so then we get into chapter 2. Right, so we're talking chapter 2. We talked identity, which really does not come out. So this is one of those things that you get from the book that you don't get in the movie, because I don't think she has these quandaries of self-identity throughout that. So she does various things to try to figure out if she's still her. She tries to remember things, tries to remember, but she finds that she can't, right? She can't remember her times tables. She tries to recite some recitations from school and can't remember, and she feels stupid, so she must, Ada is a stupid girl in her class, so maybe she's Ada now, and she's not Alice anymore.
Oh, Mabel. I think it's Mabel.
That was Mabel? It was Mabel?
Yeah. I must be Mabel after all, because she's a dum-dum.
There you go. But yeah, she can't figure out who she is. So she's eating and drinking, she's changing size rapidly, and eventually ends up very, very large. We go through, she gets small, and she's small enough to go through the door now, but she realizes she left the key on the table. Mm-hmm. So then she's able to get large again and to get the key, but now she's too large to go through the door, and she begins to cry. Just a note on all of her size changes. I find it very interesting. She does not change. If you obviously watch the Disney cartoon, it's very charming and it's kind of fun. But if you read the book and you actually try to picture her going through these size changes, I think it would be absolutely horrifying to actually watch. Because when she shrinks the one time, her foot hits her chin.
Oh, yeah.
So she's not even proportionate at this point. Right? Like, her body has disappeared, and her head is still large enough that her chin impacts with her foot. She's not changing with a consistent ratio of
I was
height and
picturing
width.
not ratio. I was picturing eventually she got to a proportionate ratio, but that she was going at different rates. So like her feet didn't shrink, but her head and body did. So she smashed down into these giant feet or something.
Right. Which I think, if we can continue with identity and who I am and whatnot, I mean, in the book she's 7.5, but even in the Disney cartoon, if we say 12 or so, I mean, this is maturation. This is growing up. This is discovering your personality. This is, who am I at this point? And I mean, when kids grow, they don't always grow proportionally. I mean, sometimes, you hit that 12 or 13 range and your limbs are too long for your body and you're kind of gangly and awkward, and you need to...
Can't really control them very smoothly.
Which is what Alice is going through here.
I love it. She says, "Who in the world am I? Ah, that is the great puzzle."
And it
Isn't
truly
it,
is.
Alice?
It truly is. Who are we?
Yeah. And another thing about this is I noticed, so I'm picturing the movie and the crying and the shrinking and the eating and the table, but then she gets the fan and she shrinks back down using the fan.
Yes.
And I was like, she didn't eat or drink anything. Where'd she get the fan? Like, it was just, I guess, a quirk of the book that they didn't put in the movie.
Right. Yeah.
And then eventually she doesn't even, we're about to get to this part, but she doesn't even go through the door.
Right. Exactly.
She gets swept away, which
right.
in the movie, doesn't she almost always go through the door?
Well, in the movie, remember in the movie, the doorknob is sentient and he talks.
That's right.
And then as she cries, he opens his mouth and swallows all of the water, and she flows through his mouth, which is a little disturbing as well if you really think about it. Because as she's crying, like, the doorknob starts to drown. Like, he starts to freak out that the water level's rising and he can't breathe. Like
Oh, God.
it's actually really disturbing.
God.
And so he eventually yawns his mouth open and swallows all the water, and she flows through.
So I guess it just like, did it come out the other doorknob, or did he have a throat that it went down?
He went out the other side.
Out the other doorknob.
Flowed through. Yeah, it flowed out the other side.
So when he opened his mouth, like the back of his head opened too.
I suppose. Oh, now we're talking doorknob anatomy. This is really creepy. All right, so as she's floating now, she's floating on her pool of tears. She finds the mouse. So the mouse is a character that isn't really in the Disney movie so much, so he's sort of an addition here. And she starts to talk with the mouse, and we get back to this Dinah obsession. She cannot stop talking about her cat. And it freaks the mouse out, really makes him upset, and she's a little obtuse. She's like, oh, no, but you would like Dinah. She's a wonderful cat. And can't figure quite out why this mouse is not so happy with her talking about a cat.
Yeah, he's like, would you like cats if you were me? She's like, well, I guess not, but don't be angry about it. And yet I wish I could show you Dinah. And she keeps going, you would like cats if you could see her. Oh, and she's so good at catching mice. Oops.
Oh, whoops. Sorry. Yeah, she's kind of opens her mouth, inserts foot quite frequently with the mouse. So we finally get through chapter 2, and that gets us into chapter 3, where now she sort of washes up on shore, and there are a bunch of other animals. She's passed other birds, and they're all soaking wet. And so now they have to figure out, they're all kind of uncomfortable and bedraggled in her tears, and so they have to figure out how to dry off. So that's where we get into the caucus race and the dodo.
Why is it called a caucus race? I was like, does a caucus race have a definition other than a political one? And it doesn't seem to.
That is a great question. So, I mean, my assumption is, without doing any other, outside research, because clearly we don't prepare anything for this. We're very professional.
I mean, I just Googled it, so.
Oh, well, I mean, that's
but what were you going to say? And then I'll tell you the right answer.
Well, no. Oh, you have the actual Alice answer, eh?
I guess.
Well, I mean, caucus race, in a political context, yeah. A political race, right? Like, you have candidates running, so we call that a race. But in the caucus system, which we currently only have in 2 states, and after some of the disastrous results of last year's primary, at least on the Democratic side, they're thinking of eliminating the caucuses and just going to straight primary, because they're very involved. So Nevada has one and Iowa has one, and Iowa obviously being first gets a lot of the attention, but you have to physically go. I mean, with the pandemic, they did try some virtual caucusing and whatnot, but you have to physically go to a place, right? Like usually a local high school gymnasium or something like that, like a large area. And you physically stand. Like there's some speeches. There's, everybody who kind of represents the candidates. All the candidates have, all the parties, the races have reps there. And then when it comes time to caucus, right? They basically say, okay, if you're voting for Biden, go over to that corner. If you're for Sanders, go to that corner. If you're for Warren, go to that corner. If you're for whoever else was running, go to that corner. And you have to physically walk to a corner, and then they kind of look around and go, okay, who's got the most? And they sort of do a first round tally, and whomever, and I think the Republicans and the Democrats have slightly different thresholds or whatever, but I think you have to hit like 15% or something to be viable to actually earn voting. But if your candidate is not viable, so it's almost like ranked choice voting in a primary that like Maine and a few other states have. If your candidate is not viable, then they go to another round of caucusing. And okay, so hey, Michael Bennett, the 3 guys that are standing in the corner standing for Michael Bennett over there, like, hey buddy, Bennett didn't do it. Do you guys want to go to another corner? And then you keep doing that until you hit a point where, okay, here's our final tally. It's going to be, these 3 candidates all get sort of points or votes or however they tally it up from our district. And it can take, this is why it sort of is a bad system and disadvantages lower income people and disadvantages younger people who have families and jobs. Like, you have to be able to stand around for sometimes 2-3 hours doing this in an evening. So, and this is another criticism, not to get too political, of why Iowa shouldn't have such prominence. Sorry, Ionians, whatever you guys call yourselves, why it should not have so much prominence in our electoral system, because Iowa is a whiter state than the population as a whole in the country, but B, is also the electorate that can actually have the time to go and do this caucus process skews much older than the country at large and whatnot. So basically, it's not representative of the electorate is the big criticism. I digress. All that to being said,
I sound so time consuming and annoying.
It sounds absolutely wretched and horrible. Yes, I would not want to do that.
Well, it says, when I Googled it, the competitive process in which a political party selects their candidate, right? Of course,
Sure.
Especially presidential, a primary election via caucus, blah, blah, blah. But the dodo and the caucus race are parodies of politics, as Carroll seems to suggest, that the dodo resembles a proud and ceremonious politician, but the actual race is a jumble of animals running without direction and purpose and without any real effect, and then is treated as if it did have a purpose or a winner.
So he is talking politics here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the dodo in the Alice version, or the Disney version of Alice, he is, very, very pompous, very stuck up. So it's very much done that to show this.
They do the caucus race in efforts to dry because they're soaking wet.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. That was his thought. Well, we'll have a caucus race.
But the mouse, I like the mouse's version. I'll soon make you dry enough. And he starts talking about some really, really boring stuff about William the Conqueror.
Something very dry. The driest thing he knows. Oh. So a lot of this book, obviously, that you don't, I guess somewhat in the movie, but you get a lot of the British are fond of puns, but you get a lot of the wordplay and the witticisms that Carroll brought into this writing.
I love puns and witticisms. I'm trying to help Vince learn play on words and why I said something that sounded like something else, and I can't think of a good example right now. But I'm also trying to I was like, great, the baby's screaming again. I'm so excited. And he's like, why are you excited at the baby screaming? I'm like, oh, Vince, it's called sarcasm. And then he used sarcasm. It a week or two later, spot on. And I was so proud. But then I was like, oh, God, this is going to backfire hard.
Yes, definitely.
All right. Anyway, there.
Oh, just quick programming note. Should we? We're referring in. I said that Carroll has great wordplay. We know, but maybe listeners, Lewis Carroll is a pen name. So maybe we should just put that disclaimer in there. I think we'll continue to refer to him as Lewis Carroll throughout these episodes. But Charles Dodson, the Reverend Charles Dodson, is his actual name.
Reverend, huh?
I think he wasn't he?
I don't know.
I could be incorrect.
I know there's isn't there a Dobson who's like a current, or used to be?
Well, this is Dodson.
I know.
Dodgson, something like that.
Charles.
Maybe he wasn't a reverend.
Dodgson. Yeah.
I guess he was not.
You just give him that just because?
Well, it says he came from a family of high church Anglicans and developed a long relationship with Christ Church, Oxford, where he lived as a scholar and a teacher. Yeah, interesting.
All
I
right.
wonder why I had it in my mind that he was a reverend. Was he
Anyway.
not? I suppose he wasn't.
This is the boring and dry part of
Yes,
the
exactly.
book
Yeah, there you
and
go.
of our podcast. Everybody out there dry enough?
No, Dodsum's ordained a deacon in the Church of England. So he was at least church adjacent. I mean, he was a deacon. So, all right, so not a reverend, but he was anyway.
Anyway.
Okay,
They do the race.
So they do the race.
And their efforts to try.
And then the mouse tells his dry story to try to dry them off. Then Alice also asks about, why don't you like
C and D?
C and D, which in a modern context, I don't know, that seems a little sketch, but
You don't really ask people about that, Alice.
no, you don't ask about C and D anymore. But so then the mouse says, well, let me tell you my tale. It is a long tale. And this is where, if you're listening along with us, which obviously we want you to, and we highly suggest you do, but if you're not actually reading a physical copy, you miss a little bit. Because when the mouse begins his tale, in the book, it's actually printed as a curving, the text is printed in a curving S shape as a tail. Right.
Yeah.
Because Alice says at one point, when the mouse sort of loses his place, Alice says something about, oh, you were around the third bend. And that's what she's referring to in the text as it curves. Well, then Alice, again, because she cannot help herself, she brings Dinah up. The mouse.
About a cat.
I mean, she literally was just hearing a story about why the mouse hates cats, but she brings Dinah up again. He freaks out. He runs off, and now it's like all the other animals are like, oh, yes, this is really awkward. We really need to get going. We got something at the house. There's a thing, and all the animals start to scatter and leave Alice.
It always gets awkward when someone starts talking about C and D in mixed company.
It definitely does.
Go get another drink. Wander away.
Exactly.
Then
So
chapter 4.
everybody leaves. She's sad, and then she hears footsteps, and she thinks, for whatever reason, oh, the mouse is coming back. How nice. But yes, we get to chapter 4, and it is not the mouse. It's
the rabbit.
Rabbit. He has returned. And now we get the mistaken identity. Once again, identity, I guess, kind of falling into this, right?
He thinks she's Marianne.
Mary.
I don't know what happened to my voice
Wow,
there.
you
Marianne.
can't speak today. Marianne. Oh, dear. So, yes, but Mary Ann, he thinks she's Mary Ann. He says he wants her to go fetch his gloves and his fan because he's forgotten them. Which, when did men stop carrying fans? I don't know if I should be happy or sad that we don't carry fans anymore.
I think plenty of men carry fans. They're just,
Think so?
I don't know.
Like a
I've
Really?
seen a man with a fan. Where did I see a man with a fan? On HGTV, there's a show called My Lottery Dream Home, and the host of that had a fan.
like unironically,
Yeah, he was hot.
and
He's
he's
a, I mean,
wow.
he had a fan. I don't know. And he fanned the other people on the show. I mean, if you watched the show and you knew who the host was, you'd be like,
Oh,
yeah,
it
he has
makes
a fan.
sense. It makes sense. Like,
Of course he
should
has
have
a
a
fan.
fan. Of course he
Yeah.
has a fan. All right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's an affectation. It's not like
It's not a matter of course. Ben doesn't have
Right.
a fan. You don't have a fan.
I don't have
but
a
this guy
fan,
had a fan.
but
He also
this
has
guy's a
giant
fan.
tiger tattoos on his neck. So that's something
Oh.
you could think about.
I definitely am never going to tattoo my neck. No, or my hands, or
Those are called job
Yeah.
stoppers.
or in my line of work now, they might actually enhance. We'll see.
That's true.
I would look more crossfitty, wouldn't I?
You get like little barbells tattooed on each knuckle.
Yeah. Oh, which, by the way, I don't know. Oh my goodness. Great tweet I saw yesterday. I don't know if you were up on what was happening on Twitter yesterday.
No,
But
never.
yesterday, so everybody's favorite Q conspiracist, Marjorie Taylor Greene, tweeted out a video yesterday. Fire Fauci, blah blah blah. But she tweeted out yesterday, "This is my COVID protection. I don't need no vaccine." And it's her doing some CrossFit, and she's doing her freaking clean and jerks or whatever, and then she jumps onto the bar and she's doing her floppy fish CrossFit pull-ups, and another guy that I follow is just out of nowhere you see so I saw the video, and then like hours later you see someone tweet, "So today's the day that the internet discovers what kind of pull-ups CrossFitters do, huh?" And you're just like, yeah.
Oh no, do you do weird floppy fish pull-ups?
I do not. I may work in a CrossFit gym. I am not a CrossFitter. I am a personal trainer who works in a fitness facility that also has CrossFit classes. I'm not a CrossFit coach. I'm a personal trainer. It's a little bit two sides of our business. It's a little different.
So
But no, I do not
things.
do the floppy fish.
I feel like doing CrossFit is a sure way to get COVID, or at least give it to other people. When you're like,
Well, she was at least by herself, like in a home gym. All right, I don't want to give her too much credit, but yeah, if you're in a class, that's a great way to spread if you don't know everybody in there and aren't.
also, what's the point of a floppy fish pull-up?
You can
Is
do a
it
lot of
easier?
them. You can do a lot of them. Yeah, it's a kipping pull up. It takes a lot. So if you want the actual what my thing is, I would not call it a pull up. That's just my personal beef with the name, because it's not actually a pull up. Is a back, shoulders, lats strength exercise, right? And that thing is more core balance and a stability kind of thing, and it's more of a gymnastics move than a strength exercise. So it's you still have to be fit to obviously do this thing, but it's, goodness Lord, it's not a pull-up. That's absolutely not what a pull-up is.
So you're giving a shout out to Marguerite Taylor Greene's fitness level. As a
She
professional.
does seem like, I call a spade a spade. She does seem like a very fit woman. She's got nothing going on upstairs, and she's
Her mental fitness is questionable.
Yes, she's a horrible human being, but she physically fit? Yes, she is very physically fit. I will give her that. That will not protect her from COVID, though.
No.
But I digress. I'm sure she's also gotten her vaccine already and just not talking about it like Trump did. But anyway, whatever.
Hey, you know who's not getting a vaccine ever?
Who's that?
Our aunt.
That does not surprise me, but she also interacts with like 0 people, so
Her entire church.
That's probably
She's a
fine.
teacher.
Yeah, but
I mean, at a
it's
tiny,
probably
tiny
fine.
private school, but
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
her mom
the
got
amount
into
of
a
people,
big fight.
the amount of people she interacts with, it's like, you know what? You're not going to spread it outside of your insulated community. Even if you did get it. So,
But
I'm
she
okay
invites
with that.
everyone over to the house, and mom and her got in a fight. You have to talk to mom about it.
But she's only inviting over to the house the people she's already interacting with already. So it's like,
Well,
it's not
but
like
then
she's going to
there's-
Walmart and spreading it to people. You know what I mean?
No.
Like,
There's our family then, and mom's like, we're not coming over.
well, that's
they
you draw the line, yeah.
got in a beef.
But we
about it.
had, I know they'll never listen, so I don't mind diming them out. But my sister-in-law, my wife just got back from a couple of days out at helping her mom move to where her sister-in-law is. Anyway, she wears her mask on her chin, and Susan's like, "Why do you do?" Because I'm making a statement.
About what? That you look like a dum-dum?
That you're stupid? Sure. Yeah, exactly. But it's mandatory, so I have to wear this mask, but I'm going to wear it wrong. And I'm like, okay, you're an idiot then, but whatever. Sure. Your statement is really cool.
Really sticking it to the man there.
I know. Just pull it up, and literally nobody cares. Just pull it up a little bit and just do your thing and get out, and then you can take it off when you walk outside.
Nobody looks at
Who
someone
cares?
with their nose over their mask and goes, "Yes."
Yeah,
We
exactly,
are fighting
right?
the fight together. I see you.
Yes.
They're like, "Your mask fell. Did you
You're
know
an
your
idiot.
mask
Like, just
fell?"
pull it up. Just pull it up. Like, it's like I work in a mask at work all day. In a gym, I work out with a mask on. Like, you can go to Walmart with a mask on. It's okay. If I can work out with one on, you can go to Walmart with one on. Anyway, I digress.
Put your mask on. Pull them up, folks.
Yes, it's just a little longer. Get your vaccines. Wear your masks. We're almost through this stupid thing. A little bit longer.
It really
Please,
is like
people.
the kid who doesn't listen at school and everybody gets more time taken away from recess and you're just standing there like, God,
Exactly.
just please.
Another great analogy I saw on Twitter was, because I'm an athlete, I'm a runner, it's like running a marathon and then at mile 23 just stopping and eating a dozen donuts and drinking a beer. It's like you're
breathing on everyone as they
you're
pass
right
by.
there. You're right at the end. Like, just finish the race. Anyway,
Yeah. Nope.
no
Prove
sense.
a point. I don't have to finish the race if I don't want to.
Exactly. Ugh. All right, so anyway, we're going to finish this race because we're in chapter 4, and Alice/Marianne is now in the rabbit's house looking for a fan and some gloves.
Eating more
And-
random junk she finds.
Eating junk. She finds this guy's house, and she gets
Or drinking
big.
it.
And so now the rabbit's freaking out. There's a monster in his house. He goes to find Bill. He's like, he gets his. He's
Bill.
like, go get some. And I love Bill because he's in the Disney Bill is amazing. This little lizard dude. He shimmies down the chimney. Alice realizes what's going on. She kicks him and shoots him out of the chimney. Everybody's all worried about Bill. They give him some whiskey to perk him up. Which,
Yeah, Bill.
Does that really perk you up?
Some brandy. It'll wake you up if you're not a brandy whiskey drinker.
Oh, maybe.
You'll wake
I
up.
guess.
Don't choke him
guess.
with him.
Man, I can't drink that stuff. But anyway, so then they decide to smoke her out, and they light the house on fire. They throw things in the window that rocks. They throw rocks at her, and they turn into cakes when they come into the rabbit's house because they just
Are they
do.
rocks or does she just think they're rocks?
I thought they were actually the rocks that turned into cakes when they got into the rabbit's
Okay.
house. Were they not?
Makes sense.
It does make sense.
A shower of little pebbles came rattling in the window, and some of them
Yeah.
hit her in the face.
Yeah,
And
so you-
noticed with some surprise that the pebbles were all turning into little cakes. Yeah.
So they physically turn into cakes, which is just, again,
Sure.
kind of bizarre. Sure, why not? That may as well happen.
So did they know? So they're throwing pebbles, but did they know the pebbles would turn into cakes, which then she would eat and then shrink her? So they're like, here, eat this stuff and get little. Or were they just trying to throw pebbles at her?
I wonder, because a lot of these things that happen to Alice, it's not like everyone else is. Well, although in the next chapter, the caterpillar does explicitly say one side of the mushroom
Right.
gets you large, and which I guess the caterpillar doesn't want to eat his mushroom. He's content. Like, no one else is changing sizes. through this.
Caterpillar knows who he is.
Oh,
He's gone through many a hookah, like meditative
yes.
thought session, and he has figured out that 3 inches high is exactly the right size to be, and he's content.
He is. So, but that gets us to chapter
At the end of
5.
this chapter. Yeah.
Right, so we're getting into 5 now, where
She sees a big puppy, she hides.
yeah,
There we
the
go.
puppy's weird. They cut it out of the Disney version because it's like, why does she meet a big puppy? He just chases her. Okay, sure, may as well happen.
Yeah.
And then she goes off. Like, the puppy really doesn't do anything.
Do anything, yeah.
It's just sort of in there. I guess maybe Alice, the real Alice, maybe she liked dogs as well as cats. And old Dodson was like, I haven't put a dog in here yet. All right, let's put a big puppy. She likes puppies. So then we get into chapter 5. She meets the caterpillar on the hookah, one of the all-time iconic. I mean, now we're really getting into it, right? These first 4 chapters, there's, it's Alice. You've got the eat me, drink me sort of iconic stuff. But, okay, yeah, the caucus race, the tears, Bill going down the chimney. Even watching the movie, you're kind of like, well, okay, these are sort of forgettable scenes. But now, if you say Alice in Wonderland to people, I think you're going to get probably one of 3 things, right? You're going to get like off with her head, the Cheshire Cat, or the Caterpillar.
Yeah.
Right? These
Or
are the big
like
three.
the Mad Hatter.
Oh, okay, maybe the Mad Hatter. Sure, the Tea Party. Yeah,
Yeah.
the Tea Party scene as well. So the big four, we'll call it, I guess. So now we're getting into, we'll hit two of the big four this episode, and we'll get the other two next time. So we hit the Caterpillar chapter. So now she meets our wonderful hookah-smoking caterpillar, which, you know, again, I just got to keep singing the praises, because I think if you ranked all of the animated Disney movies over the last 50, 60, 70 years, Alice is in the top 5, right?
I think.
I'm excluding Pixar. I'm talking to straight line Disney, cell shade animation, standard Disney animated movies.
Even like late 90s, Lion King, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast.
Well, that's sort of the Disney resurgence, right? Like that's when that's kind of they ramp back up. But I think Alice is, even counting those, Alice has got to be, in my book, top 10, 100% top 10, probably even top 5.
Yeah, I haven't watched it in a while. I did watch the like new version with Helena Bonham Carter, the Tim Burton version.
Right.
I tried to watch it with Vince, and he thought it was interesting for a little bit, and then it got scary. But
yeah, it's a little weird. But yeah, for my
can't
money,
separate it.
The Disney is, exactly. For my money, the Disney version is one of the best Disney animated movies of all time. So, and now we're getting into one of the best scenes. One of the most iconic scenes is the caterpillar scene, right? Where he's smoking and putting out the smoke rings, and who are you? And getting angry at her, and here's that theme of identity. She doesn't know who she is. She can't even say who she is. She cannot even describe who she is.
Poor Alice. Like, it's hard. And she's trying to get the caterpillar to like identify with her. And she's like, it's very confusing to be different sizes. And he's like, no, it isn't. And she's like, well, you'll see one day when you end up a chrysalis, and then you'll turn into a butterfly and you'll feel weird, won't you? Nope. I will not.
I know what I'm doing.
Not a bit.
I know what I'm doing.
And she's like, it's weird to me. And he's like, who are you?
Who
and he
are
just
you?
keeps coming back.
Right. And she cannot answer that.
She could not.
I mean, it's an interesting thing. I think, and I encourage listeners to do something along these lines. Like, figure it out, right? I remember we had a
just
test.
figure it out, everyone. Figure out who you are.
No, but I mean, people are complex, right? We're not just one thing, obviously, but
right.
I remember we did I don't know, it was like some kind of psychological thing or what it was, some sort of testing I did in college, where they made us write down one-word answers, like 10 of them or something, I forget, of who you are, right? Like labels, descriptors of like your personality, like what are words that would describe you, basically. And then they randomly picked one of them, and then you had to like answer questions based on that anyway. But another thought experiment you can do is, think about what other people would say about you. You can think, what would a friend describe me as? How would a close acquaintance describe me? And kind of try to step outside yourself and how are other people describing you? And then describe, well, now think about somebody who doesn't like you, like a critic of yours. How would they describe you?
You have to be really self-aware to do that, though.
It is, as I'm saying. That's why it's like work, right?
Some
and then
people are not
out,
self-aware.
They aren't. But I think going through an exercise like that helps make you more self-aware. And then decide, like, okay, now who do you think you are? And now you take those 3 and you kind of try to triangulate it, because you're going to be elements of all of them at various points, right? Mm-hmm. So poor Alice is trying to figure out who she is. Caterpillar's not really helping.
No. Because he can't fathom. He knows who he is. She's
right.
like, this is very confusing. He's like, it's not. Just who are you?
Just do it, Alice. Come on. You should know by now.
And he's not supportive at all, except when it comes to size.
Yes. He's a little upset because she does not like being 3 inches tall. And he's like, I'm exactly 3 inches.
It's a very
That's
good height
great.
indeed.
And this is where he gets indignant and he pieces out. He's like, whatever, I'm out of here. I'm done talking to you. But he does give her the tip that mushroom, one side will make you larger and one side will make you smaller.
Well, he doesn't say mushroom. She has to figure that out.
Well,
He's
he
like,
says one
side
side,
makes you big, one side makes you... And she's like, side of what?
Side of what?
Yeah.
She's a little obtuse at this point.
I
There
think
was
she was pretty smart in the way she figured it out. She was like, I don't know what side is of a round thing, so I'm just going to reach my arms as far as I can and pull off pieces.
Which is an accurate way to do it, because if it's truly 50-50, I mean, if you get it equidistant point on either side of the circle, you're not going to get two of the same
thing. Yeah.
Right. You're going to get one of each. So it's pretty smart in that respect. A little personal anecdote. Susan and I were at an orientation one time on a base that was a joint base. So the military has started some locations, they combine them into what are called joint bases. So it's not, it's not an Army base, it's not an Air Force base, it's not a Navy base, it's a joint base, right? The services kind of share. And there was a base that was Air Force and Navy, and so they combined it, right? But originally it had been two separate. I mean, they're close together, they basically touch. And the person doing the orientation briefing said, okay, such and such thing, it's over on the Navy side, right? And we had this grizzled old colonel in our class who just hits his little microphone button and just goes, the Navy side of what? And she just kind of looks at him. She's like, excuse me? And we're all just, everyone else in the room is going, the Navy side of the base, dude, this is a joint base. Like, the name of the base is literally joint base. Like, and he hits the button again. He's like, the Navy side of what? And she's just like, the Navy side of the other side of the base, buddy. Like, anyway.
He's a grizzled caterpillar is what you meant.
Exactly. Little personal anecdote there. All right. So now we're going to get into another little personal anecdote. We get into chapter 6, where Alice goes to the Duchess's house. This is not a scene in the Disney movie. I think this is pretty much cut, right? I don't think the Duchess is even in the Disney movie.
I don't know.
I could be.
I mean, I've seen it, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yep, the Duchess is not in. So this scene is not even in the movie. All right, so personal story. When I was a kid, we had our computer, Apple IIc, and used to get these. Broderbund was a software company that made stuff back then. I don't know if they're probably not even around anymore. But they made a couple of these side-scrolling adventure games. And probably, I don't know, maybe their most famous was an Alice in Wonderland game.
Oh.
Yeah. Very book accurate, Alice in Wonderland. And so I think it's actually probably both. I think it's Through the Looking Glass and Alice in Wonderland combined. I'll have to see what the actual name of the game is. But I remember being, 7 years old playing this game, and I probably had never read the book yet at this point, but I'd seen the Disney movie, obviously. And I was absolutely fascinated at the inclusion of some of this stuff because, you go to the Duchess's house, and you're like, what is this? This is not in the movie. And, discovering all these different things and these characters and,
Were they little green? Like, of course it was. It was a little green.
Yeah, it was black and white. And you could, you collect
black
items.
And white?
It's black and white. You collect mushrooms and you can make Alice bigger or smaller. And our screen was, but the game itself is black and white.
Oh, I remember playing Oregon Trail on that computer.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Introduced my kids
typhoid.
to that. Yeah. My kids like playing it now. A lot of these you can actually play on the Internet Archive. They have a lot of these old games that you can play for free. I'll have to see if Alice is on there. I'll make a note and check that out. I don't know.
Then you could live stream playing Alice.
I could actually do an Alice playthrough on Twitch.
That would be cool. Actually,
that would be fun. I will look that up this week. All right. So anyway, she goes to the Duchess's house and she can't get in. Door's locked. And while she's there, a guy comes up, a fish in a powdered wig shows up, and he's delivering a giant letter. I guess maybe it's a check from Publishers Clearinghouse or something. And knocks on the door, and this frog footman with a powdered wig comes out and takes the letter, and he's it's an invitation from the Queen to the Duchess to come play croquet. So...
Or croquet?
Yes, or croquet. They are actually playing croquet. They're not going to make croquettes, though they could, because
Delicious.
The Duchess is a cook, and she has a cook, and there's a lot of kitchen stuff here. So maybe Lewis Carroll was thinking about croquettes in the kitchen, but then decided to write croquet.
All right. I think this is played out.
Oh, is it? All right, fine. All right, so then Alice is trying to get in. We have some witty wordplay with the footman, and he's figuring out, well, I'm on this side of the door, so if you knock, I can't let you in. I mean, if you were inside, I could let you out. Fun little scene. He's just going back and forth. This guy's not too bright. But finally, she's able to slip in at one point and gets inside, and we've got the cook and the Duchess. The Duchess has got a baby, and she's smacking it around, and there's just pepper everywhere, making them all sneeze. It's a little disturbing. They have a fun little song where they sing about beating your children, which we do not advocate beating your children, people. Please don't take that as actual parenting advice.
Oh, we totally understand it if you feel like doing it.
Yes, just please don't act on it.
Yeah, don't actually do it.
Don't.
But that feeling of, I might beat you if you don't stop screaming in my face that you hate me and hitting me. But don't hit your kids.
We've got the you hate me thing, and you're just like, bro, I don't hate you. I just said please get in bed.
You hate me. I put Vince in timeout, and he screamed, I hate you. And I was like, I don't care if you hate me. Sit on that step.
No, I get the you hate me when I'm like, dude, go brush your teeth. You hate me. Dude, I'm just telling you to brush your teeth. I'm not even angry. Like, there's no...
The opposite of hate. Just brush your teeth.
Just brush your teeth, man. I just want to tuck you in and play a podcast for you. Just get in bed. There's no hate, man.
Anyway. Will try to get out of stuff by going, but I love you. And I'll be like, love's got nothing to do with
That's great, bro.
Get over here.
Exactly. I love you too, man. Come on. All right, so Alice, at least appropriately so, is concerned for the safety of this baby. She is able to get it away from the Duchess, gets out of the house, runs into the forest. Baby turns into a pig, and she's like, oh, and lets it run off.
And
then we get the next of the big four.
Maybe the biggest of the big.
Probably. I think you probably are right.
Yeah.
We meet the Cheshire Cat. And we get if you read the book, you would be surprised. This is, again, why I love the Disney movie so much. A lot of scenes in the movie are just straight taken from the book, which is either a testament to how good the movie is or how good the book is. Or maybe both. I don't know.
Or testament to how well they adapted it since the book came first.
Well, true. Well, that's what I mean. Like when I say how good the movie is, how well it's adapted from the book. It'll be fun too when we get to Through the Looking Glass. There are scenes from the movie that are literally, it's word for word speech. But anyway, basically this is one of those scenes, right, where the Cheshire Cat is kind of wittily playing with Alice. I mean, he doesn't open the tree to let her through. Well, that's later. That's when she goes to the palace. But anyway, she's figuring out directions, and once again, this is figuring yourself out, right? Mm-hmm. Sort of self-identity. Because she says, which way is the direction? Which way should I go? And well, it depends where you're trying to go. Like you can go any way you want. It all depends where you're trying to get to. Both directions are equally good.
And you can go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you could go that way, and you could go see the March Hare, or you could go that way and go see the Mad Hatter.
And then we get probably
but they're both mad.
The line, you think the line? Is this like
Yeah.
the big iconic line, right?
Of course. I don't want to go among mad people. Oh, you can't help that.
That we're all mad here.
I'm mad. You're mad. Except I think I read it much more Cheshire Catty.
Yes, you tried to put a little Cheshire Cat in there.
I tried.
A little very, very iconic for the time. But Sterling Holloway, very, very famous Disney voice actor, is the voice of the Cheshire Cat in the movie. Also did Piglet and Sir Hiss and many other very famous Disney characters throughout the 40s, 50s, whatever.
I was wondering why they call what is a Cheshire Cat, and it's just a cat from Cheshire, England. But there's so many farms, dairy farms, that the cats have a lot of access to milk, hence their smile.
Interesting. Does milk make you smile?
Well, I mean, cats like milk, despite the fact that they're lactose intolerant, and you shouldn't give your cat milk.
I mean, does milk help
or something
their
like that.
teeth shine, or they're just happy that
they're just
get to
happy.
drink milk? Okay.
Yeah, it's
So he's a happy
delicious.
cat. So he's happy.
Really happy cats.
All right. Very nice. Very nice.
I like the line about the difference between cats and dogs. He said, a dog's not mad, you grant that? She's like, I suppose.
Sure.
You see, a dog growls when it's angry and wags its tail when it's pleased. Now I growl when I'm pleased and wag my tail when I'm angry. Therefore, I'm mad.
That's logic.
And I call it purring, not growling. He's like, call it what you like.
Sure. Yeah.
My point stands.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you take it at its face, a lot of this stuff's quite logical.
Yeah.
Which is it's a great thing with logic. I mean, depending on what you start as your givens, you can probably prove anything. So, yeah, if you start with the given that dogs aren't mad, then you can logically
you can't
make
argue
it follow.
with the given.
Right, exactly. Because that's your given. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so then she decides, well, I don't want to go see mad people. I'll go see the March Hare. She walks off, and she sees the March Hare's house, which looks like a rabbit. Mm-hmm. And she goes, oh, man, maybe I should have gone the other way and seen the Hatter. And that closes chapter 6.
That's it. I really enjoy reading this. I hope I'm, doing it justice, despite the croquet and croquette. But it's really fun to read.
It is very fun to read. Unfortunately, we are not professional voice actors. It would be even more fun if we were, but
it'd be better if we had talent.
Exactly, right?
We don't.
So my goal is for all of you listeners to enjoy listening to the book and then immediately inspire you to go watch the Disney version, because I think it is the definitive Alice version. But hey, maybe you disagree with me, and that's terrific.
I mean, you haven't mentioned that once yet, that it's your favorite movie. Not at all. So
not my favorite. It's probably my favorite Disney animated feature.
It. No.
I absolutely would. I mean, but maybe you don't think so. So, why don't you hit me up on social media? We are at CYST Pod on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We are Twitch, and we are live streaming these things on Twitch. We also have a YouTube channel. Just search for Classics You Slept Through on YouTube. While you're there, why don't you subscribe to our YouTube channel? Eventually, then we will be able to get a custom URL. Doesn't cost you anything. Just click that subscribe button. We also have email. So if you like some other Disney animated movie better, hey, change my mind. Right? You think the Aristocats is great, even though it's got racist depictions of Chinese folk? Sure, bring it. Tell me why that movie's better. I mean, the jazz is fun, but still, racism, 1960s.
But still,
you can email us cystpod@gmail.com. So, Mare, any other thoughts on Alice? 'Cause I know you have a hard out here in a few minutes.
I do. I have a definite heart out. No, I think that's it. That's all I got. It was good.
It is. Excellent. So, until next time, this has been Classics You Slept Through. Please remember that even though one pill will make you larger and one pill will make you small, and the ones that Mother gives you don't do anything at all, if you take something, go see the school nurse.
Peace.
All right.